this is your host, Julia Napini. I am a clinical and forensic social worker who owns a counseling practice and a consulting business. In this show, we discuss the challenges of being successful in business while maintaining your integrity and staying true to yourself. Join me while I interview other professionals and share insights from life and experience. Let's talk about RingRx, our latest sponsor. RingRx is a high-quality, HIPAA-compliant telephone, text, and fax communications platform. They provide seamless, cost-effective communications for behavioral therapists, medical practices, hospitals, and other healthcare providers. RingRx is designed for modern healthcare environments. They offer customizable features like a phone app, automated patient outreach, voicemail, after-hours call routing, and top-quality desk phones. Try RingRx for free today at ringrx.com. And if you sign up using the code CLIMB, you'll get 15% off your monthly bill forever. Conditions apply. Hello and welcome to another episode of the Compassionate Climb podcast. I am here today with another guest who is somebody that I got to spend some time with recently in Missouri at Mackenzie Bradkey's Connection and Growth Weekend Symposium. And she's someone that was infamous. I knew of her. I had listened to her on podcasts and was familiar with some of what she was doing out there in the world. But to really spend some time with her, get to know her better, there was no question she needed to come on the show. So Michelle Risser, welcome.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Getting to spend a little bit more time with you, learning more about what you do, sharing what you do, there was no question that needed to happen. So fill everyone in on what is relevant to your career climb that would help us understand a lot of what you're doing currently.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. Well, I do a lot of different things. I'm a person who likes to do a lot of different things. Ever since I was
multi-passionate.
Yep, I am definitely multi-passionate. Even when I was 15 years old, I didn't have my first job. I had my first 3 jobs. I worked at a pizza place and I babysat and I tutored.
Love
and then later I would always I'd have a job at a realtor's office and then I would bartend. I've always had multiple things. And the first time I ever had a full-time job, it was out of grad school, and it about killed me. I just remember thinking, how do people do the same thing from 9 to 5 and then go home and cook dinner? And such a grind.
Right.
So I didn't do that for long until I started my private practice. And then from there, I started doing other things as well. So I think it'd be fun to share actually how I had the same feeling, Julia, as you did, where I felt like I knew you already.
Yeah.
And it was because of one of the things that I do, which is I help CE providers. I help people who host conferences or summits get approved for CEs. And I do this in a lot of different ways. I am a CE provider myself. I use the term CEU and CE interchangeably. It's technically CE, but CEU is what everybody searches for. So that's what I use when I talk about it. But anyway, I had gotten the CEs approved for 2 different summits that Julia is part of. And one is Megan Gunnell's Thrive Summit in Portugal coming up in 2026. And the other was Mackenzie's Connection and Growth Weekend that Julia just talked about. So it was so funny when I met Julia, she said, I feel like I know you. And I said, well, guess what? I feel like I know you too, because I had spent the last couple months in her trainings, and she has tricky topics because she talks about Enneagram and, business. So I had to do a little extra finesse to get this approved for CE. So I was really in Julia's stuff, looking at her bio, looking at her bibliography. So I'm like, I feel like I know you too. So that was fun to meet in the flesh.
I appreciate you sharing that. It was successful. Go you.
I was. Boom. Yes. I was so proud of that because actually Mackenzie was offering APA CEs as well. And Julia's did not get approved for APA because it was being the CEO of your business and life. And I managed to get it approved for NBCC. That's right. And under Megan's, I got all of her sessions, all 16 approved for ASWB. So
wow. Very impressive.
Yeah. So I've been studying, learning, knee deep in CEs for about 3 years now. So I'll share just a little bit about my journey.
Please do.
So I started my private practice, and in 2010, that was my first business. And prior to that, I had worked in an agency that it was great because they were a CE provider and they would allow us to present on topics that we were passionate about at different agencies or for our staff meetings. So I had already been used to being a presenter. And when I got into private practice, it was just natural that I would start offering CE trainings. And there was a big conference in town called the Addiction Studies Institute. It's an international big conference. I guess I didn't know enough to be scared. I just thought, what the heck, I'll apply. And I got in, and I actually did that several years in a row. And I would also do other conferences and summits, kind of like the things you're doing. And I wasn't offering CEs on my own yet. I was just a presenter and speaker. And then something happened. I was in a bad car accident. My family and I were, my daughter's 16 now. She was 4 at the time. So 10 years ago, I was in a bad car accident and we were hit by a drunk driver and rolled. It was very traumatic. We all survived, but it was tough. And I was getting ready to present at this addiction studies conference. The insurance company is calling me on the phone. I had like acute PTSD at this point, still not sleeping, very shaken, getting ready to go to court. I'm getting ready to go in and present, and the insurance lady is calling me. And if you've ever dealt with something like that, you know that it's hard to get them on the phone. Yes. I'm answering the phone with her in the hallway, like minutes before I'm going in to present at this large conference. And I will tell you, Julia, I was so rattled. I was almost in tears. My note cards got out of order. I couldn't get them back in order. I struggled through. I got through it somehow, but then my feedback was like, I could tell she was nervous. Presenter was out of sorts. And I was like, forget it. I'm never doing this again. My nervous system can't handle it. And I took probably 4 or 5 years off. Mm-hmm. And then finally, there was this wonderful conference for, it's for Franklin County Head Start, which is our Head Start agency. So these are not all licensed professionals. Some of them are, but a lot of them are like family advocates or like preschool teachers, things like that. And they're just hungry for knowledge. And I thought, well, I'll go speak there. And I did a training on working with moms 101. And I just told them like how to look for maternal mental health concerns and things like that. And it was great. And they loved it. And I was like, all right, I'm back.
Back in the saddle.
Back in the saddle. Mm-hmm. So fast forward to COVID. And I had started, this is such a long story. I'll see if I can get to the highlights. But I had started a coaching business, and I was working with, much similar to Mackenzie, I was working with therapist moms on burnout, but it was very difficult to get that off of the ground. And I found that it's because burned out therapist moms really don't have a lot of extra time and energy to, take your program or, do your thing. And so while I was trying to get that off the ground, I was offering CEs. I became a CE provider through my state, and I started offering trainings, and I was doing that regularly. And guess what? That was the thing that everybody started asking me, how do I do that? And I'm like, okay, I'm going to put together a course.
Love it.
So I put together a course. I'm getting ready to re-record that in November and just freshen it up, spruce it up. But I made a course, I made templates, and then people were like, can I consult with you? I started offering consulting. Then it became, can you just do it for me? And that's how I ended up doing the VIP services like I did with Megan. And it just sort of took off from there. I kind of followed what the demand was, and people wanted to know how to do that and get support with that. So that was that's my CE business, my consulting business. On the therapy practice side, I offer a little bit of therapy. I have a tiny private practice still. I'm getting ready to downsize into a shared office that I am only renting 4 hours a week for in person. Mm-hmm. And it's a beautiful space. And I also offer EMDR consultation, and I do EMDR basic training with Libby Murdoch. So even on the therapy side, I have multiple streams.
Yes.
So that's where I'm at right now. And I feel like finally year 5 of, having this second business, I feel like I'm finally finding some balance. It's finally all coming together. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I love this. So there is so much to delve into there.
Oh my gosh, I know it's a lot.
And timeline. So
Mm-hmm.
the biggest piece that comes up for me being in the position that I'm in, and obviously why I'm sure the consulting took off in the way that it did, for a lot of us that are mental health professionals, we own a
Mm-hmm.
business, we can wear all the hats, we don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of extra time outside of our sessions, that it can feel very intimidating and a
It
little
sure
daunting
can.
to take on an application like the ones that you're doing. But
Mm-hmm.
clearly it's doable. So
It
what
is
would
doable.
to someone who hasn't and is kind of holding back from maybe this desire to train
Mm-hmm.
and present, that would be helpful for them to hear from you with all the applications that you've done and people that
Yes.
you've helped to get approval.
One of my biggest pieces of advice, and it's kind of funny because this applies to you, Julia. I always recommend if you want to offer a CE, first choose which organization you want to apply to, get their application in front of you, and especially look at their list of allowable content and create your training from there. So basically, what I'm saying is create a training with the intention of it being approved. That is 1,000 times easier than taking a training that already exists and trying to reverse engineer it.
That is brilliant. You know what it's making me think of? Are you familiar with Dave Ramsey?
Yes.
So a snowball method. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you take the credit card that's small so that you build momentum and increase
Mm-hmm.
confidence. And I love the idea of instead of trying to like fit the square peg in the round hole, it's like
Yes.
let's get the puzzle pieces to work so that you are building your confidence, you've had a win, and then you take
Exactly, exactly. And if you want to get, there are two types of approvals. You can get your single course approved, or you can get provider status. And when you're applying for provider status, they go through everything with a fine tooth comb.
mm,
And if you create that first, one or two trainings with all of the criteria in place, then it's so easy to apply for provider status.
ooh,
Whereas if you're applying and maybe you did a course that was, it was pretty good, maybe it's a topic that's allowed, but you didn't provide a certificate and you didn't keep a sign-in sheet and you don't really have what you need. Now you're trying to reverse engineer it, try to make it work.
yeah.
It's just, yeah, it is. It's very much like let's build one out to get it approved.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, like you said, you get that snowball, you get that confidence,
Mm-hmm.
you start to know
Mm-hmm.
what they expect. And once you are a provider and once you kind of know what language to use, you can be a little bit more creative. You can get an Enneagram or be the CEO of your business and life approved. Whereas if you're going straight out of the gate with that, you're not going to know what they want to see, which is you have to tie it back to your clinical work. You have to
Mm-hmm.
make a case for how it is in scope for a therapist. You have to make a case that it is evidence based. So even if you're doing that type of training, you have to have a bibliography, and you have to kind of know what words to use and what lens to look through to
Yes.
make that case. Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. So
Yeah.
now I'm thinking, how do you help someone or how did you get proficient in navigating all of these different organizations? So I'm thinking
Mm-hmm.
it's probably similar to those of us that take insurance in our private practice.
Mm-hmm.
Every single insurance company operates very independently of one another
Mm-hmm.
and they have different criteria and it's our responsibility to know what they're looking for when we're contracted with them. So, how did you streamline that and how do you help others
Mm-hmm.
understand and differentiate one from the other?
Absolutely. Well, when I started out, one of the early, I did my course and I actually hired my niece, who was still in high school at the time, to just start researching which states approve CEs. So I have a list of states that do pre-approvals because often it is a little easier to start with your state.
Mm-hmm.
If they approve CEs, about 50% do. It's a little cheaper. The process is a little quicker. So I always say check out your state, see if they
Mm-hmm.
approve CEs, and then choose one of the larger national organizations. And I have really narrowed it down to NBCC and ASWB. Those are the two I know like the back of my hand. They cover a lot of folks. I've also helped people with CAMFT, which is California
Mm-hmm.
Association of MFT. Um, I have not done APA because a lot of people get denied for APA. It's very difficult.
Yeah.
However, I had someone recently say, Michelle, I really want to work with you. This is someone who wants to work with me long term, ongoing. And she's like, I want to be your guinea pig for APA if you're willing to figure it out.
Sure.
So I'll be diving into that in a couple months. I'll keep
Mm-hmm.
you posted how that goes. But I just pretty much decided I know ASWB and NBCC like the back of my hand. I have templates for all of the documents they want for the application. I have checklists that I've created, and I know exactly what we need.
Yeah.
And I can just kind of go through it, click, click, click. Now, for your state, a lot of times if you start there, if you start with those ASWB or NBCC requirements, they're going to meet your state's requirements because the states are usually not quite as stringent.
Mm-hmm.
So
That's
that's
really
that's
cool.
where I start, and just here's the checklist, here's the templates.
Yeah. I love that you offer so many different levels too. So
Mm-hmm.
it's you have all these resources accessible and a training. If somebody wants to
Mm-hmm.
learn it themselves, you could walk them through the process as a consultant, but then you also can take it on if it's somebody that would prefer to just leave it
Mm-hmm.
in your hands and have the confidence that it will get done properly.
Absolutely. And I am finding I'm having to be more selective how many of those I can take. I really can't take more than one a month because
Mhm.
it is time consuming
Oh
for
yeah,
me.
I believe it.
And yeah, and my idea was, that I would train someone to help me with that, but then I really feel like I want my eyes on it because I'm the one that has done these applications. I'm the
For
one who
sure.
has gotten the revision requests. I know what they're looking for, so it's one of those like I'd rather have my own eyeballs on it. But what I'm creating something in November that I'm excited about. It might be a
Okay.
good hybrid in between. But for
Okay.
anybody who has a VA or an assistant, I'm going to create a packet that's have your VA do it.
Love it.
And I'm basically handing over everything they could possibly need, the
Yeah.
checklist, the templates, the applications. And then I'm going to include with that, I'll do the final review,
Mhm.
look through it all, tell the VA it's good to go, and they turn it in with
That's
minimal,
brilliant.
yeah, minimal hassle for the business owner. So
That is so smart. So
coming
I
soon.
have to ask with that correlation I made to insurance
Mm-hmm.
companies, I know how helpful it is when you get an actual live person and a point of
Mm-hmm.
contact. Are you at the point now where you have identified people within each organization that you can speak directly to?
Not so much, no, because
Mm,
there are so many different reviewers, and each application is going to be assigned to a different reviewer.
makes sense. Okay,
Yeah,
interesting. So
yeah,
I would love to transition
sure.
into being a multi-passionate, and I love
Mm-hmm.
that in the beginning you mentioned that you're in a phase right now where you feel like you've achieved this level of balance with all of these pieces that you have going on simultaneously. So I'd love
Yes.
to hear, and I'm sure the audience would as well, what are some of the strategies that you use to
Mm-hmm.
get there? Because that's not easy when you have an entrepreneurial spirit and are passionate
Mm-hmm.
about several things.
And I do want to say I don't do it perfectly.
Mm-hmm.
I joke with my husband and my business besties that like I have another idea because I love new things, and I want to create the new thing, but I really need to pull myself back and focus on what I already have. So the
Mm-hmm.
biggest thing that has helped me, first of all, I want everybody to know that I'm 5 years in, and I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
make it sound like this is a quick, easy thing.
Sure.
The biggest thing it requires is persistence. I'm still here because I haven't given up. And if something, my first idea did not work, several ideas have not worked. Um, and if it doesn't work, I look at the data. I look at,
Yes.
things like my email analytics. I've learned a lot about business. I'm kind of nerding out on
Mhm.
business on the side.
Yeah.
And I try to figure out why didn't it work, and then I do something different, but I don't
Mhm.
give up, probably to a fault. Um,
Yes.
so know that I'm 5 years in, and it takes persistence. I don't want to pretend that you can flip a switch. I do want to say though that CEs are one of the easier ones to get off the ground because A, you can do it in your therapy practice. B, everybody needs CEs,
Sure.
and it's not a huge lift. CEs are what took off for me while I was trying to build other things.
Mm.
So it really was the first income stream that took off for me.
Mhm.
So, with that said, I'm a big fan of blocking your calendar. My
Mhm.
calendar is all blocked and color coded. I have time blocked out to work on my business. I have days where I do consulting. I have days where I do therapy. And I have days where I do client work. So
Mhm.
when I first started out, that was 2 hours a week. You may have to get up early on a Saturday and knock out 2 hours a week. You might have to work one evening, whatever you have to do to make it work. But I started with 2 hours a week. As that started to bring in some income, maybe I could drop a couple therapy clients.
Mm.
Brings in a little more income. I drop a couple more therapy clients. I'm down to now about 5 to 8 therapy clients a week. So it's very small.
Okay.
I'm not ready to give it up completely. But, when I started, I had 24 therapy clients. I'm not doing what I'm doing now with 24 therapy clients. I would
Right.
have a total stress attack. So
Mhm.
I've just gradually tipped it. I remember a couple years ago, it got to 50-50. And then it got to last year, it was more consulting business than therapy. It was about 70-30. And guess what? This is so surprising. But this year, it's tipped back
Mhm.
to my therapy business is actually making more. And that's because I'm doing all of the EMDR training and
Yes.
consultation.
That is
So,
so helpful to hear. Okay, so first of all, providing that time frame where we're not comparing somebody's day one to someone who's several years in. I appreciate that
yes.
so much. Transparency is important, and we can compare very oftentimes when we don't know the full picture.
Mm-hmm.
So that is so helpful. The time blocking we hear very often, but I think it's totally different when it's not just a concept, but you bring it
Mm-hmm.
to life, the color
Mm-hmm.
coding, you put it in there. But then also to hear the transparency behind how the breakdown has looked and how it's changed over time.
Mm-hmm.
Not many people are sharing that if you're not asking specifically. And we all have a different
Yeah.
level of success. We all have different goals when we're starting something. And so maybe we only ever want it to be this balance and this 50-50, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
there are times when we want to ramp one up over the other. We're also providing
Sure.
a caveat that for therapy to now be something that has become more lucrative at this phase,
Mm-hmm.
EMDR is a big component of that. So I
Mm-hmm.
really appreciate you sharing all of that to provide the context.
Absolutely. Yeah. It ebbs and flows. And it
Mm-hmm.
looks different. If I launch a big program that does
Yeah.
well, it's going to tip the balance towards that side. um,
Yes. And I also love the persistence piece because there is not one success story that I've delved into on a deeper level, whether it's reading someone's autobiography that is famous or whether it's an interview on here.
mm-hmm.
There's always this common thread that we're not always privy to the ideas that don't become something or the efforts that don't
Yes.
necessarily result in what we hope for. And that doesn't
Mm-hmm.
mean that you stop. That means you course correct and you figure out what you can learn from that. And if it
That's
really
right.
matters to you, you're going to keep moving forward. So I would love to hear what criteria you use now, being a multi-passionate who
Mm-hmm.
would never feel completely fulfilled doing just one thing.
No, I
When
wouldn't.
comes across your desk or pops into your mind as an idea, what are you using for that filter or criteria to help you decide if it is something you're going to take on or if it's something you're going to pass on or
Mm.
put off till later?
So one of the things that I've done that has really, really helped with that is I had to get a business mentor. Not just like a coach who coaches coaches. I've worked with them too, and that's absolutely fine. I've learned a lot. Although I will say, side note, is that a lot of the folks that I've learned from were therapists. A lot of people out there coaching, therapists to do coaching or consulting, they gave up therapy. I didn't have any mentors who still had a therapy practice while they were building their other income streams. So
Important
it is,
point.
it is a different thing. Um, but I found a business mentor. I've been working with Amber McHugh. I'm in her program. She's wonderful. She has a lot of free stuff out there. She's not a therapist. She comes from the corporate world. She's a
Yeah.
business person. Her program's called Modern CEO. And so the way that now I don't jump into the thing, because I used to jump into the thing and burn
Mm-hmm.
myself completely out and chase my wheels all the time. So I got into Amber's program, and now I have a 90-day plan. And I plan that out quarterly, and I work my 90-day plan. I'm
Mm.
not throwing something new in there. It goes in the maybe pile, and then I look at it once I've worked through the things I'm working on. So
Mm.
that helps a lot.
Well, another thing that I appreciate you sharing is that it's okay to ask for help. It's
Mm-hmm.
okay to identify someone that does not necessarily have the same training as us. And sometimes it's actually preferable if they don't.
Yeah, exactly. Because as therapists, we know that we get no business training, and then we're out there learning from other therapists who, they have learned their business training on their own outside of what they learned in grad school. But now I'm learning from someone who has always been in business. Like that's her career is business. And it is very different because she knows about all the analytics and the forecasting and the money and the accounting and the planning and the delegating and, all those things that I needed to learn.
That is so invaluable. So when we hear about multiple income streams, it sounds great in theory and wonderful on paper, but then when you actually delve a little bit deeper, it can look like someone has multiple income streams, but they might not be as profitable as you would think.
That's
And
true.
I'd love to hear what suggestions you have for really ensuring that something gets to that level where, and everyone's definition is going to be a little bit different, but where it really is success with multiple income streams over a period of time without burning yourself out. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, wow. That's a big question. First, I want to say I'm not saying I never burn myself out. Sometimes I do. I definitely do, but I'm getting better at it. But sometimes you have to take a good hard look. And this is where the business stuff helps me. Take a good hard look at the numbers, the money, the time. Am I spending 10 hours a week on something that maybe I make $5 every now and then? You have to really think like a business person, look at the numbers, learn how to look at your analytics, and what is really profitable and what's working. Yeah, like right now, I have been, because I'm doing the EMDR training with Libby Murdoch, I've been getting a ton of business for EMDR consultation. So I've been doing a lot of groups, a lot of one-on-one, and I did recently raise my rates because I needed to, especially for the one-on-one. Yeah.
Sure.
But I'm finding that right now, that is what seems to be coming in easily. I'm not having to put a ton of effort into marketing that. I don't really market that much at all. I'm becoming known for that, and it's coming in easily, and I enjoy it.
I love that. So you highlighted a few things there that I think actually are in alignment with what I had talked about when we met in person, which is this whole idea of being a CEO, which we don't get training in as mental health professionals. We learn, and sometimes through trial and error and some hardship. But this whole mentality of when you make a decision, if you're clear on your why and your vision, and you've got some sort of a plan in place, and then you're reevaluating at regular intervals, and when you have something come across your lap, is it in alignment with all of those things? Is it going to get me where I want to be? Is the place that I identified before that I want to be the same place now? And they're data-driven decisions. So
data-driven, yes.
That.
Data-driven, taking the emotion out of it, looking at the data. Also at the same time, though, balancing it with my own energy level. So I found out that I could not be a good therapist to very many people with all of these other things. I feel like I can be a good therapist to a very small number of existing clients, but I'm not taking any new clients. I'm not taking any highly acute, I was doing EMDR intensive for a while. I don't do that anymore. I have a very small caseload of existing clients who are kind of in maintenance mode, but we're doing deep work, and I enjoy that.
I love it.
But I could not do a full caseload of therapy. And it's so funny because my husband will tell me, if he comes home and he can just hear the animation, even if he can't necessarily hear what I'm saying, when I'm on an EMDR consultation call, or if I'm on a podcast like this where I'm just nerding out about business and income streams, or if I'm on a CEU or a business consultation, I'm just so excited. Yes. I have so much fun.
Yes, and it shows, and it's like the things that I always say light us up.
Yes.
That really fill our cup. And then when we're coming from a place of abundance instead of lack, when we're charging rates that are reasonable, raising those rates when the demand is high, if we are really pursuing the things that excite us, and if we're also delegating or making a shift like you have at different phases, where maybe things are not necessarily providing what they did at one time.
That's
I love
right.
the fact we can always shift and kind of go back and forth. Those
Yep.
skills don't go away.
Or you can delegate, like I did just last year. I hired a VA, and it took me 4 years to hire a VA. So anybody out there listening, like, don't be
Mhm.
thinking, oh, I should be here right now. You just have to start. You have to pick one thing and start. But I did hire a VA to do a lot of my CE certificates and, sort of that stuff in the background because I was doing all that myself
Mhm.
and it just didn't make sense anymore. If I could be seeing a consulting client and have her do that,
Right.
it's made just such a change in my
Yes.
life.
It's important for all of us to hear that multiple times and have really concrete examples when other people that we admire level up and we can see what
Mm-hmm.
impact that has. So I appreciate you saying that. You have identified so many important takeaways today. Before we wrap up, I
Mm-hmm.
definitely want to touch upon marketing a little bit. Anyone
Mm-hmm.
who is not following Michelle on social media needs to, but tell me a little bit about how you are consistently showing up on all the platforms. Your content is
Mm-hmm.
great. And anything you want to share about that side of your world?
Absolutely. Well, guess what? I got help with that too. I did a program to learn how to grow my Instagram. And Julia and I have kind of bonded over trying to grow our Instagrams, but I picked one platform. So everything else you see, I'm just sharing it out. Like I
Got
have my VA repost to TikTok. I have it automatically share out to Facebook.
it.
I have sometimes I'll just share something over to my LinkedIn,
Mhm.
automatically. But the only thing I'm actually creating content for is Instagram because that's the one I decided to focus on. I
Got it.
like it. I
Yeah.
think it's fun. It's my creative outlet. And through this process, I kind of figured out what my audience relates to, but what I like. And I landed on these funny CapCut reels that I just enjoy making. They're like
Yes.
my creative outlet and they're funny. And, I mix that with some more inspirational, encouraging content and occasionally some personal things about me, but not much.
Mhm.
And then you sprinkle in a little bit of sales. So,
Mhm.
the numbers that I have been told is you do 50% of what's called growth content. That's your
Mhm.
funny, silly, get people to share it, repost something. And then you do 30% nurture content, which is like, I see you and you're encouraging your audience. And then about 20% sales. You don't want to
Mhm.
just bombard with, here's my thing for sale, here's my thing for sale.
Yeah.
You also don't want to just constantly share funny stuff because you're a business
Right.
and you want people to know that. So I try to hit that mix. I
Love
try
it.
to,
Well, you're doing a
yeah,
great job, and I appreciate
thank
that
you.
you're quantifying how to kind of categorize and where to put your energy.
Yeah. And what's sort of funny too is another kind of shift that I'm making is I've discovered through this process that I love marketing. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of therapists hate it. I feel like I kind of missed my calling. I think maybe I should have been like a digital marketer or a graphic designer or something.
Ooh.
I've decided I love it and I'm working on my Google digital marketing certification. And right now I'm actually running a beta group of a marketing cohort where it's called the
Nice.
doable marketing circle. And we're just doing bite-sized, very doable things, just like a tiny snippet of here's what SEO is and here's how you can incorporate it into a blog post. And, a tiny snippet of here's what a sales post is and what it entails so that people can start to feel more confident.
Hmm.
So I've decided I love marketing and I can see myself as time goes on shifting more and more to that. And I
Yes.
don't know what that'll look like, but right now that's lighting me up a lot.
What a blast. Well, it shows. So I will make sure to include all of your links of how people can find you, follow you. Is there anything that you are working on right now or up and coming that you want to share and promote?
Yeah. Well, if you're thinking about becoming a CE provider, like we talked about, I have lots of different levels that I help with.
Mm-hmm.
So just check out my website, mrisser.com, and stop by there. You can get my free checklist, which is the exact process I use with my VIPs. It's going to get you all the steps that you need to do. But if you want additional help, I have lots of additional help.
Okay.
And what I'd love to ask everyone is please follow me on Instagram. I've been trying really hard to get to 5,000 followers. And I think I'm at like 48, 70 or something like that. The last
Whoa,
time
so close.
I'm so close.
Mhm.
Um, and again, this is a long journey. I am not someone who flipped a switch and I have 5,000 in my Instagram. It's taken me 3 years of
Mhm.
consistent growth.
Yeah.
So please follow me on Instagram. It's Michelle_Risser.
Love it. Thank you so much
You're
for
so
taking the
welcome.
time to be on the show, for
You're so
all that
welcome.
you have done, sharing your wisdom with everyone, and just being such a badass.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I feel like I talked a million miles an hour, but that's because I get excited and I want to share everything that I know.
It shows. It's infectious. But no, it
Thank
comes
you.
across that you are passionate about it, but it was very well conveyed. And I think there are going to be a lot of value takeaways, but also this is an episode people can always come back to really pick apart some of those pieces. But we'll try our best to highlight that in the show notes. So thank you so much.
And when you find me on my website or my Instagram, just send me a message if you have any questions. I'm happy to help, point you in a direction, whatever you need.
Awesome. Thanks, Michelle.
All right. You're welcome, Julie.
If you like what you're hearing, please rate and review. This will help others find us and benefit as well. The Compassionate Climb podcast represents the opinions of Julia Napini and her guests. The information provided is intended for educational purposes only and should not be taken as legal advice. If that is what you are seeking, please consult an attorney.